Are we live? I guess we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the return edition, the off-season edition, the NBA Draft Lottery edition of Orlando Magic Live. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich, editor of Orlando Magic Daily. I am joined by my cohort, Zach Oliver of Orlando Pinstriped Post. Zach, it's been kind of quiet around here, hasn't it?
Yeah, except for this thunder that we've been having for the last about hour and a half. It's been pretty quiet in these streets.
Yeah, it's been a little quiet in Orlando. Been about a month since the season ended. I can't think of anything that's been going on with the Magic of late. Can you?
I mean, I know I still have a job. Do you still have a job?
Well, I certainly did not resign my job. I'm still here kicking. So obviously we're beating around the bush a little bit. The big news in Orlando Magic land, the news that you just can't escape at all, and we wanted to make sure we got on the air before the draft lottery began and talk a little bit about the offseason, about the end of the season, as well as the resignation of Scott Skiles last week. Caught everyone by surprise, even the Magic, it seemed like. I know we've talked about it. What was your reaction when you saw that Scott Skiles had resigned?
I woke up at about 10:45, and I had probably 10 or 12 texts from a multitude of people like, well, what the hell happened? What? And then I look at my phone and I see that Scott Skiles has resigned. And I was just like, well, that escalated quickly. That it was just completely blindsiding. Like, I don't think that anybody could have expected that. You know, I think that we could tell that maybe Scott wasn't always the happiest, and that was probably due to the fact that the team was not very good for about half the season. But I don't think any of us would have been able to point to this being the end all with it, especially with 3 years left on his contract.
I think it was 3 years left on his contract. Obviously, when you sign up to be a coach, you don't sign up just for 1 year. I think he knew the challenges that this team was facing. It was a young team. It was a team that hadn't experienced a lot of winning. He was brought in to establish some credibility and establish some accountability for the team. And I think in a lot of ways he did that, and that's part of the reason why the team struggled. I think they resisted it a little bit because they've been kind of set in their ways in some ways, and they needed a kind of a slap on the wrist or a kind of a quick kick in the butt. But for whatever reason, things didn't click. They did. I mean, for whatever. I mean, and it didn't feel this way during the season. I mean, Skiles is the kind of guy that has a lot of faults. And one of them is he cares about winning the individual game. He sometimes doesn't see the forest for the trees. And I think that's ultimately one of the reasons why he resigned. This is an organization that's still looking at the forest. And Skiles saw a team that didn't make the playoffs and couldn't make the playoffs maybe without some changes and maybe some fundamental changes that the franchise isn't willing to make. What do you make of the rumors that have come out about why Skiles stepped away, and what does that say about moving forward?
I think that some of it probably shows that the Magic are really bought into this rebuild. I mean, we're going into the fifth season next year, and obviously I think it's probably going to be better. You know, we expect them to go in and make some moves this summer to improve and get some more veteran leadership. But Skiles is, like you said, he's somebody that looks at it in a much smaller picture than the team does. And I think ultimately that's what probably was the biggest difference is he probably wanted to move on from some of these guys already, especially Elfrid Payton, who it appears that the team really holds pretty highly and that Skiles wasn't enamored with too much. And I think that the philosophical differences show that the Magic believe in their players and that their players are more important than what one coach could think about their players.
And I think one thing that, what caught me by surprise in some way was, the questions that we're asking about, which players should be on the team, which players the Magic should move forward with. These are important questions for the team to ask. These are questions that the Magic need to be asking this year. And as Rob Hennigan said during the press conference last week, these are also things that he wants to have debates on and have discussion on. But to me, what caught me by surprise is, you want to have these discussions. We've had these discussions. I've had these discussions with fans, readers, followers. I'm sure you have too. We've had arguments. People have their guys that they like and see ceilings differently. But at the same time, all these guys are so young. It's so hard to give up on anyone. Like Elfrid Payton didn't have his best season this year. And I think we all saw that as the season was going on. But I saw them as growing pains. I saw them as him fighting some things that he needed to learn how to fight and play through.
Yep.
And at the end of the season, it looked like things were coming together for him. So to say that relationship or that belief is unsalvageable, to me is strange to hear. I guess this is a good segue for two things. First, we are doing a Google Hangout here, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A on the Google Hangout. We'll answer them as best we can as the show progresses. The second segue is, we haven't talked since the end of the season, so talking about Elfrid Payton is a good way to start this. How would you assess the Magic's 2016 season now as we move into this offseason?
I think it was equal parts disappointing and equal parts good because, as you said, we had so many questions that we needed to answer, and I think we started to really answer those, and the team needed to take that next step. You've said it and I've said it. This season was pretty much what last year needed to be. They needed to start.
Absolutely.
They needed to start turning the corner. They needed to answer those questions and even ask more about who they have and what could be the ceiling of the bunch that they had. And that just didn't happen. They, for all intents and purposes, they regressed last year. That was a very bad basketball team.
Yeah, last year's team?
Yeah. At
times, yeah, it certainly was. And I think certainly we didn't get all of our questions answered that we needed. And I think even that is a good thing in many ways. That the issue now is you've got to stop collecting assets and you've got to start moving forward and building team. And I think we kind of saw that in them deciding to move on from Tobias Harris. I know there's a report circling around that the Magic actually started looking to move Tobias Harris fairly quickly after the deadline. It was clear he was their plan B. They wanted Paul Millsap. He would have been the piece that fit perfectly. That didn't happen. They had a good backup plan. They tried it. Working. They needed to mix something up to have a shot at the playoffs and to progress as a team and to feature the guys that they truly believe in. I think what last year showed is that this group is currently composed doesn't quite work. And so now we enter this offseason where I think the Magic have to pick their horses, decide who they're gonna back and which guys they need to be ready to move on from. And that's where these heated debates are supposed to take place. And that's where these heated debates are supposed to lead to something resembling progress. And that's why I'm kind of confused why Skiles didn't want to be a part of that or couldn't be a part of that. As the case may be, we don't really know. So, at this point, what do you see as the big move the Magic have to make to take that next step? Can they come back with this roster and add a couple of veterans as some people seem to suggest this offseason?
I guess it probably depends on the level of veterans that you're adding and where you're adding them. Because if you're adding guys, if you're adding like a Jason Smith level guy who's a 7th or 8th man, that's not going to make an impact. If you're adding, an Al Horford or
a max level guy,
or even, just like a mid-tier guy, maybe somebody like a Kent Bazemore, maybe not him exactly, but somebody of that level, that can kind of come in and give them some stability at one of the positions that they need help with, then maybe we can start seeing them grow forward. And really, and I think you and me both agree on this, I think that this is the summer that they try to cash in on somebody. And with the contract situations, with half the roster being on rookie deals, really the only guy that they can use if they want to get a big chip is Nikola Vucevic, which then
he's the big salary they have to move.
Yeah, and I mean they also have Ersan Ilyasova's $8.4 million quasi expiring, so they have some pieces that they can move, but it's just who's gonna want to make a move for those pieces, and what can you actually get?
Yeah, and I think that's why some people, and this is a fair criticism, why some people were a little surprised by the Tobias Harris trade. I think if I'm looking at free agency, if I'm a free agent and I'm looking at this Magic team, yes, they've got a young core, and yes, there's a lot of potential there. But if I'm a free agent, unless I'm moving somewhere to get a bigger role, I'm looking at this team and I'm not sure I can win immediately. I know a lot of people like the Al Horford idea, giving him a max. But if I'm Al Horford, why would I leave Atlanta? Why would I?
Why would he come to Orlando over?
Why would he come to Orlando
over a team like Dallas or Boston, or staying in Atlanta, or even going down to Miami to replace Hassan Whiteside, who most likely ends up out because the Heat aren't going to be able to pay him.
Yeah, and like that's essentially the problem with the trade, with that whole trade that they did was, yes, they freed up all this cap room, but everyone else has cap room. So, you can go after and sign one of these guys, but ultimately you're going to be taking if you're going to use this cap room on a max guy, you're probably going to be taking a risk and trying to tell I think everyone recognizes Harrison Barnes is going to be max, but you're going to tell Harrison Barnes, we're going to make you the number one guy. You're going to be the number one guy, and see if he's receptive to that. You're going to be asking someone to step up a role that they aren't playing right now. And to me, it's a calculated risk, but it is a huge risk.
Yeah.
And I think if there's a criticism of what Rob Hennigan has done personnel-wise, I think I just saw a huge flash of lightning. If there's a huge risk that Rob Hennigan or if there's a huge mistake that Rob Hennigan has made personnel-wise, it's where now in year 4, they've kind of let things simmer. He hasn't taken any risks. I mean, yeah, you can say drafting Aaron Gordon was a bit of a risk. It was a high upside risk. Drafting Mario Hezonja was something of a risk. But as far as bringing in a veteran, he hasn't kind of the big risk. Like Channing Frye was a risk, but it was a risk they could get out of. Like that contract, they definitely overpaid for him. But you saw, they can get rid of that contract pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Tobias Harris, they maybe, they didn't overpay for him. He got a max offer from someone else and wanted to stay in Orlando. But the way that contract was structured, it was pretty clear the Magic could get out of that pretty quickly if things didn't work out. Hennigan's done a good job maintaining flexibility. But I think what I'm sensing from the fan base now, as they've missed the playoffs 4 years and they're trying to take that next step forward, is at some point you just got to put your chips in. And I think that's what we both kind of hinted at is what's going to happen this summer, whether it's Vucevic, whether it's Oladipo, whether it's letting Fournier walk and replacing him with someone, whether it's shopping Peyton around, who knows? I mean, that would be kind of silly if they did that at this point. But
maybe it's moving Victor Oladipo.
Yeah.
You and I both agree on this. I think that nobody on this Magic roster is untouchable. No matter how they're playing, there's guys that you're going to be hesitant to move and only going to want to move them if you're getting like a star level player, but you can't make everybody untouchable on a group that you don't really know what you have yet, to be completely honest. I mean, they're still super young, and you don't know what Mario Hezonja is going to be. You don't know what Aaron Gordon's going to be. You don't know what Elfrid Payton's going to be. I think you probably have a good idea of what Victor Oladipo is at this point, and you know what Nikola Vucevic is.
and Hennigan said this during exit interviews. Typically, by the end of the rookie contract, you know what a player is.
Yeah.
And I think Vucevic is what he is. Fournier is what he is for all, and they have a big decision to make on Fournier. Oladipo, I think that we still all kind of see that ceiling and see him trying to, tap on it a few times, but he hasn't gotten there fully. And that's like a big thing that he has to do this summer. Gordon is still a bundle of potential. Hazonia is still a bundle of potential. There's still a lot about these guys that they have that we just don't know about. And they're getting to a point where certainly ownership wants to push things forward a little bit more.
Yeah. And to be honest, they need to, because if you're not pushing forward and you're not making that gradual improvement, what's going to make somebody like Al Horford want to come to Orlando? What's going to make Hassan Whiteside want to come to Orlando? You're not going to be able to get players if you don't show that tangible growth, and that they're not. I mean, there's just still so many questions that need to be answered. And I mean, the big thing that we haven't even touched on is the fact that it's going to be the fourth coach in 15 months for this team.
Yeah, when you put it like that, it sounds much worse than 4 coaches in 3 years, like I like to say. But yeah, it can't be 15 months.
Okay, closer to.
That's not right. Oh, maybe no, that's not right.
No, yeah, that's right. Yeah, because we're in May.
Oh God, you are right.
Jacques Vaughn was fired in February of last year.
Oh God, you are right.
And then James Borrego, and then Scott Skiles was hired for a season.
Man, well, there you have that. I can't count. I don't know time.
If you don't have the stability within your coaching staff, what's going to show somebody that you have stability within the organization? And that's one of the I think that might be the biggest issue that the Skiles resignation brings forth is, look, why, if a coach that's had success and is well regarded by some quitting after 1 year, then why would I want to go? Because if you're a star player, you expect to have some say in some personnel moves. Like the general manager will come to you and be like, hey, what do you think of this? Obviously that's not going to be the end all be all, but what's going to make you think that that's going to happen? And I think that that's one of the big things that is maybe being overlooked some. And I think that's what's going to end up hurting the Magic a lot this summer.
I agree. And it's not just the roster questions. I think it is the coach question now. And it's certainly not anything the Magic could control. They didn't go out and fire Skiles.
Yeah.
Skiles resigned. And although Skiles said in his statement, I hope there are no unintended consequences of this. There are consequences of this that the Magic have to deal with now. And this is going to be one of them. We're almost to the draft show. So I want to make sure we talk a little bit about the draft before the lottery starts. If you have any questions and you're watching on the Google Hangout, be sure to drop them in the Q&A. We'll try and answer them as the show goes on. We'll probably stay on a little bit after the lottery ends. We're watching it live as well. You'll see me look off to my left here. So you're right. I'm sure. I think Zach's looking off to his left, my right on the screen as well. So we're both watching it as it happens. So don't be offended if we're looking off screen. I want to try and answer your questions if you have any for either of us. But before we get into the draft,
don't forget if you're watching on YouTube with us, you can always tweet at us. We both have Twitter open, I imagine. So
yes.
So we will see questions.
My computer likes to act slow when I'm running my Google Hangouts, so we'll try and get to those as well. But before we move on to the draft, the question I have for you is: it's been almost a week. It's been 5 days. Plenty of rumors already going about the coaching search. Who do you like in this coaching search? What are you looking for in a coach?
I think that the guy that they would be tickled to death if they could get is Frank Vogel. I think you need somebody who can come in bring that stability that I was talking about, and somebody that's also had success. I think that with this team, it's tough to go with a first-time coach because of what you need to, show to free agents. If you're going with somebody like Adrian Griffin, who I think both of us agree is pretty high on the list, then that might be something that's okay, since he's been so highly regarded as an assistant and he's had that success with the Chicago Bulls. So maybe that's okay. But I think the guy should be Frank Vogel. I wrote that, and I think that you mentioned something to me before we came on air that they might not be able to afford Vogel with still having to pay Jacques Vaughn for another season, I believe.
I think they're done with Vaughn.
I'm not sure if Vaughn's is done, but they still have.
I think Vaughn's contract is done.
And then they still have.
And then whatever severance they paid to Skiles, I can't imagine it's anywhere near his full salary. So I don't know if that's a huge consideration. But coaches are hired to be fired. I think this year, especially, is a big year for the Magic. I think ownership is going to put a lot of pressure on Rob Hennigan to build a playoff team, and that includes bringing in a coach. And if they don't make the playoffs, I think that there is the distinct possibility that they could change GMs. As sold to this plan as they are, they need to see results, and I think last year showed they want to push for some results. Maybe this whole fiasco bought Hennigan another year, but if you're an established coach like Vogel, are you willing to come in for a GM that might be on shaky ground? That matters too. And if you're an owner and your GM might be changing soon and the vision might be changing soon, are you willing to pay top dollar for a top coach? For whatever it is. For what it's worth, Vogel is the best coach on the market. Like the draft, I think you go best player available. We've seen how important a good coach can be with a young group. No matter what you think about Skiles, he was infinitely better than Jacques Vaughn in a lot of ways. He did begin establishing a culture of accountability. They did win games. They were successful in some ways. And so you can see the power of a good coach and a good coaching staff. And so if, to Vogel, see what his vision for the team is, see what he thinks about this roster, see how he would run things, and how he would shore up some of his shortcomings. He doesn't have Paul George on this team, and those offenses in Indiana weren't particularly good.
Bad.
They
were bad.
So what does he do with this group that most people don't consider a good offensive team? Those are questions you have to ask. This to me isn't, it feels like a slam dunk because of Vogel's name and his pedigree. But to me, I'm a little, when something's too much of a good thing, you should pause a little bit and ask, okay, why, are there problems that we're not looking at because our eyes are getting big? Again, I'm not saying the Magic shouldn't hire Vogel. I'm a huge Frank Vogel fan. I think he's smart enough to figure this stuff out. I don't think he has a particular type of team except for a good defensive team. That's what he wants.
And that's ultimately what the Magic want.
Exactly. So there's definitely that synergy there. But if they don't land Frank Vogel, I think Adrian Griffin is a really good option, because if you're not going to sell free agents the new coach, you sell them, look, our coach resigned. He got, for whatever reason, he no longer believed in the vision. But we still believe in these players, and we still believe in the coaching staff that was in place. So there is some continuity and there is some stability if you keep Griffin. And Griffin is a well-respected player around the league and a guy that that GMs believe is going to be a good head coach in this league. And so I'm okay with giving him his first opportunity here because of the continuity that he has with the roster already.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing that I was going to mention is if you go with Griffin, then you have that. And the Magic had a very good coaching staff this last year. Like, let's not.
I thought so too.
Let's not be wrong there. Things just didn't work out for some reason with Scott Skiles. And I think that at least to an extent that how your coaching staff is built is a lot of how well your team actually does. Because you can have a great head coach, but if you don't have good to, even great assistants or even league average assistants, then, you might struggle. And I think that a lot of this is their roster, but we see it with Brett Brown in Philadelphia. Brett Brown is a hell of a coach. And I think that we both agree on that.
Yes.
They
watch. I mean, if you're a casual NBA fan and you don't get League Pass and you don't get a chance to watch the Sixers, get a chance to watch a Sixers game. They're not talented at all as far as NBA talent goes. They play their butts off for him all season, no matter how much they're getting beat by. They're not an easy team to play. And
Brown's always one of the most impressive coaches when we talk to them before the game and after the game when they're in town. I think once Brown gets some talent there, the sky's going to be the limit for that Philadelphia team. But I think that I would probably say that Griffin is going to end up being their guy, and they'll just bring it. Maybe they go and get somebody who has some head coaching experience to come in and kind of be that associate head coach. Maybe you see a name like Jeff Hornacek, who's been tossed around for the head coaching job.
That's not a bad idea. Just to help him out. And it's not like Griffin hasn't been around some good names. He was a Tom Thibodeau assistant for 5-6 seasons. NBA draft lottery is about to start. They have Heather Cox explaining how the draft lottery works. I wrote a big article. I'm sure you did too. I know Josh Robbins did, explaining how the lottery works. You 1 through 14 in a draw out 4 numbers. See who gets, match the number to who gets it. Before we dive into maybe some of the specifics, the Orlando Magic have the 11th best odds tonight, 0.8% chance of getting the first pick, 0.9% at the second pick, and 1.2%.
It's about, I think it's 0.8, 0.95, and
very, 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 very tiny chance to get a top 3 pick.
And then 1.15 for the top 3 picks. So you're saying there's a chance?
Yes, we're saying there's a chance. The 11th pick, there's a 90% chance they're going to end up with the 11th pick. Number combination the Magic have right now, because I think that's funny. I'd like to actually know what combos they have. But what do the Magic need to accomplish with this draft pick, assuming it's 11? Obviously, if it's 1 or 2 or 3, they're getting a pretty good player. But at 11, what do they need to accomplish with the draft pick? What do you think are some of their options?
I think that they need to accomplish a trade, and I don't think that they're in a position where they can add another young player that's going to take a year or 2 to be ready to give them what they need. I think that that's something, a sentiment that you've shared with me as well, that they need the veteran leadership. If they can use a mix of players in the pick to get somebody, great. If not, then you take the pick. You look at your options. Maybe you look at Denzel Valentine, who's probably going to be one of the more ready guys there. You could look at Scalabissier if he doesn't keep rocketing up draft boards. Who he's a project, but he looks like he could be good. Deontay Davis from Michigan State, another project big man. And you have options. I mean, you could even go with Tyler Ulis there if you wanted to kind of shore up your point guard position a little bit. If you don't believe that Shabazz, well, I don't think many people believe that Shabazz Napier is going to be here long term.
It's whether you think CJ Watson can stay healthy enough to be the backup point guard, because that was the problem this year. Is they had to rely on Shabazz in December, and that's about when in December and January, and that's when things really fell apart.
And even if Ulis doesn't play much next year, that's fine. That gives him a year to learn under Peyton, who is going into his 3rd year, and under CJ Watson, who's a veteran. So I think that's maybe a little bit more out of left field, but that's something that they could.
Rob Hennigan going left field with a draft pick.
I know it's shocking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that boat. I mean, I think I was trumpeting this horn in February even. You know, the Magic don't need another project. It's clear they want to win now. That may not be the right strategy, but it's clear they want to win now. So if they're looking to win now, I think they've got to shop the pick and see if they can get someone to give them a veteran, not someone that they have to go out and sign, just to continue adding depth to the roster. Try and build things up. But if they end up keeping this pick, I actually kind of like, I've been watching a little bit of tape on Skal Labissiere and Deontay Davis. They're still both extremely raw, but they have a lot of physical tools that I really like from centers. They're very different players from Nikola Vucevic. And at that point then, you now maybe have drafted your replacement for Nikola Vucevic. And that's really what you want to do, kind of, is start grooming maybe players to replace some of the players that maybe don't fit the future when the team's going to be good. I think we both like Vuce. He's a great guy. He's a good player, but he has some shortcomings that are going to hold him back. And he improved defensively this year. I thought he had a good season, but I mean, there's just something there that fit what the Magic are trying to do.
His inability to move laterally is a big issue, and you can't.
I mean, he doesn't hedge on pick and rolls, and that's a huge problem.
Yeah, and we saw that throughout the season. You said it doesn't seem like they know what to call out properly on their pick and roll coverages, and some of that comes down to the point guard, because sometimes the point guard calls out, and then the rest of the time that usually comes to the person that they're putting in the pick and roll defense, because it's their job to call it out. So I think that his shortcomings are clear, and it's not a knock on Vooch. Like, just some players just aren't good defensively.
Exactly, and like we saw at the end of the year, he's really, really effective coming off the bench. And you don't want to pay $12 million for a guy coming off the bench, although in this reality of the NBA, maybe you do. I don't know. It's certainly something to consider. That the Magic to me, with this pick, the Magic have to be aggressive. They have to at least search around and see what they can get, and then make a decision. Should the impossible happen right now, today, who do you take with the number 1 pick in the draft if you're the Orlando Magic?
Brandon Ingram from Duke. I've been on the Ingram train for a while now. I think he's going to end up being better than Ben Simmons. I don't think that Ben Simmons is going to be a bad player. I think that all the tools that Ingram has, I mean, he's super long. He's a really smooth scorer. He's going to be really good defensively. I think that would fit in really well with what this team needs. And, obviously some people have compared him to Kevin Durant. That's probably like the tippy top best case scenario.
Yes. And I agree with you there. I like Ben Simmons a lot. I think that he's going to be a very good player. And I always, when you're at number one or two, you take best player available and you figure the fit out later. But with where the Magic are at in their development, they are looking to make a roster. I think we said that earlier. I think, we've talked about this. The Magic are no longer trying to collect assets. They're trying to build a team. And in that sense, I agree. Brandon Ingram fits this team better than Ben Simmons. You already have Aaron Gordon, who Ben Simmons will become eventually in some respects. So I think Gordon's going to be a much better defender than Simmons in a lot of ways. So with that in mind,
no good Clippers.
No good Clippers. I bet if you look, you'll find two in that commercial. With that in mind, we do have a question on the Google Hangout. Again, if you have any questions, we'll try and answer them. We'll be watching the draft lottery here in just a moment. Jay Verma asks, what free agents do you think the Magic may obtain this summer? I know that we talked a little bit about this as far as what kind of free agents the Magic could attract and what kind of roster they have to market themselves with. But if you're the Magic and it's midnight July 1st, let's assume they kept the pick and took whoever you wanted them to take. Who do you go after at midnight on July 1st with this roster?
The good basketball playing man.
Yes. So you call Kevin Durant, and
you
he does this Kevin Durant laugh and politely says, "I'll think about it. Talk to my agent." And then the agent, curses you out and says no. Then who do you call?
I think the first call's Al Horford. I think that Horford is the guy that you can go and he can come in and make an impact. You can maybe play him at the 4 in some lineups. I think he's a 5 for the most part, but he can come in. He's really versatile as a player. We saw that he started adding that 3-point shot this year. He's a good defender. He just does so much that this team needs. After that, I've thrown his name out there a few times. I like Harrison Barnes probably a little bit more than some. I think that he could be a good fit. And also Nicholas Batum, who I don't think the Hornets let him go, but Batum's that jack of all trades kind of guy, and ultimately he would be able to come in and make an impact like we saw him do with the Hornets this year. I mean, he single-handedly changed that team, and I think he was the reason that they ended up making the playoffs. So I think those are 3 guys that I would be calling first. If you the big elephant in the room is what do you do with Dwight Howard?
He's way down on the list. I'm not touching him for a moment. I agree with your list. I think Horford's the first guy you call. I don't think he's a perfect fit, but I think he gives the Magic what they want, makes it a little more comfortable to shop Vucevic around. Like I've said on numerous occasions, I don't think you trade Vucevic unless you have his replacement in place. You get Horford, you have his replacement in place. I think you do make a call to Harrison Barnes. I'm not particularly high on him. I think it'd be a huge risk to give him the max and try and turn him into that star guy. But on this roster where it seems like everyone, it's kind of top guy by committee, I think it can still be a successful place for him. I'm just concerned that he won't be able to take that next step up. He's obviously he's been made better by being in that Golden State system, and so I'm a little hesitant. But I think he put a phone call in there.
Yep.
I agree with Batum, although I don't think he's gonna make that move. After that, though, I think the well starts getting pretty dry.
Do you call DeMar DeRozan?
Depends. I mean, you're gonna try and re-sign Evan Fournier. I think you maybe make the call, but you've got Victor Oladipo, so it depends on what your assessment of the trade market is. They're currently introducing we'll cut that off there. Thank you for the question. They're currently introducing the representatives. Here's Mr. Rob Hennigan of the Orlando Magic on your TV. I've got my prop ready. I've got my big board. As you can see, we've got the lottery order as best I can do it. This is circa 1995. So we'll be keeping track of things. As the draft lottery gets started, for those that are watching, the Magic here drafting at 11. This is my best weatherman. That's somewhere over here, right there. They cannot get higher than 11 unless they're in the top 3. So if 11 passes and the Magic have not been named, they're in the top 3. They can fall to 12, 13, or 14. This is supposed to be the Wizards, but it'll go to Phoenix if it's not in the top 3. So we'll see what happens here. They're introducing the dais. What are your lottery inklings here? Do you have your lucky charm ready? I'm wearing mine actually. For my lucky charm, I am wearing my 2009 Eastern Conference Championship shirt. Zach, do you have any lucky charms to bring the Magic some good fortune here in the next few moments as we await the unveiling of the lottery order?
No, unfortunately I don't. I'm actually sitting on the same floor that I have previously to for draft lotteries. So we'll see if that works out. I think that the Magic probably end up at 11 if they move.
There's a 90% chance of that happening. It's probably going to happen.
I know. I'm very bold with my takes here.
They're talking to.
I did have a question from my peanut gallery that's watching me from inside my living room.
Oh, go for it.
My mom asked
go for it.
us about Pat Williams because she thought that he was going to be the one up on stage. For clarification for people, Pat Williams was the one that was kissing the balls before they went in to the machine to try to give the team good luck.
Yes. Rob Hennigan's on the stage. Pat Williams, for the second straight year, is actually in the room where they're drawing the lottery.
Where they've drawn the lottery. Yes.
Yes, that already took place. The lottery is done, folks. The number one pick has been decided. We're just waiting for Ernst & Young to deliver those wonderfully juicy envelopes.
We're just waiting for Adrian Wojnarowski to tweet it out.
I mean, Adrian Wojnarowski's already determined it. Zach Lowe's probably in that room again. I know he was in there last year. The other thing we got to watch out for, too, and I forgot to mention this. Let me pull up my draft board here. The Los Angeles Lakers here have the second best lottery odds, but if they fall, but the Magic want them to fall out of the top 3 and get 4, because then that pick gets conveyed to the Philadelphia 76ers, and the Magic will get that pick from the Dwight Howard trade in 2018. The Magic need that pick to be conveyed to the 76ers either this year or next year to get that pick. So this is actually a big deal coming up here in the draft lottery. So even though the Magic will be probably picking 11th and probably announced 11th, after this commercial break, we'll also be watching to see if the Lakers get a top 3 pick.
We'll be watching.
Any gut feeling on that? Oh no, go for it.
Do I have a gut feeling on that? I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so I don't believe that the draft lottery is rigged. But
it can't be rigged. The Magic won it 3 times.
The Lakers are going to end up with a top 3.
The NBA hates the Magic. We know the NBA hates the Magic.
Yeah, well, they don't hate the Magic. Let's not be testy here. No, I think that ends up being a top 3 pick. I think that we end up going pretty chalky tonight, to be honest. I think that this is the year that maybe we see a team with the worst record finally jump up and keep that pick. Or Minnesota did that last year, didn't they?
Minnesota did that last year.
So that would be.
I'm looking at my board right now. I'm gonna take a random stab here. I am going to predict. What's that team?
See, this is why Phil's here, because he likes to have bolder takes than I do at times.
I did promise someone the takes would be keeping it 100.
Yeah.
I'm going to predict the Phoenix Suns get the number 1 pick from the 4 spot. That is my educated, uneducated guess, that the Phoenix Suns, this team right here, will get the number 1 pick.
Phoenix getting the number
from the 4 spot.
Phoenix getting the number 1 pick would be really intriguing because I feel like that's a team that's closer than what this year showed. I think that the Eric Bledsoe injury.
There's a lot of nastiness. There's injuries and a lot of nastiness in that locker room that's tough for a young team to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
Coach.
Yeah, but they're in a really good spot. They have a 3-headed monster in the backcourt of Eric Bledsoe, Brandon Knight, and Devin Booker, who. But Booker might be the.
So clearly you take Chris Dunn.
Yes, Booker might be the. Booker might be a top 5 shooter in the NBA right now.
Ooh! You said you said you weren't giving any hot takes today.
I picked Devin Booker.
He did. What did he shoot shoot for the season from beyond the arc? Like 34%.
It might have been.
He wasn't. I mean, I know he came on strong toward the end of the year, but
I think that some of that is also the fact that they just gave him the green light. He was just jacking. He's a super pure shooter.
Yeah.
He was actually my selection to win the three-point contest. I was probably
don't ever bet against the Splash Brothers, dude.
I know. It was one time.
I know the Thunder are trying, and yesterday was awesome. Watching the Thunder steal that game, but
all right,
Golden State, I think, still the team. All right, it is envelope time. Who's ready to watch the draft? Who's ready to watch two people watching the draft lottery on YouTube? Everyone?
All right. Well, here we go. It's our one time to bond with Mark Tatum for the year.
We want Russ.
No surprise there. That blue suit is something that Jimmy Butler is wearing.
He looks good. Yes, that's correct. This is Phoenix. I lost the Suns button. That's Phoenix. Oh, now I'm getting nervous. The Magic did not move down, everyone. They are slated to go next.
The Orlando Magic.
There we go. The Orlando Magic will pick 11th in the NBA draft. No surprise, about 90% chance for that to happen. So, yeah, that's how it goes. This should be Milwaukee.
Yep.
I want everyone to admire the old logos, if you will. This was made in 1995. This was a birthday gift. You got Golden State here. It's a pretty good old logo.
The Toronto.
This should be Toronto.
Yep. Toronto had no chance of winning the top pick, so that one was set in stone.
Yeah. This pick came from
Denver.
Who did it come from? Denver.
Sacramento.
So far,
also had no chance of winning the draft lottery. So.
Yes. We are completely chalk.
The Denver Nuggets.
Still chalk. Next should be New Orleans. I don't have a New Orleans button. Where'd I go? Still completely chalk. I disappeared. That's okay. Our friend Professor Corey asked us who the Magic should take with the number 1 pick. That's not.
Well, we're going to be taking Corey with the number 1 pick, actually.
I would take Corey with the number 1 pick in my blogger in my Magic blogger draft. Looking to add some pieces to this offseason. All right, 4th pick should be Phoenix.
Yep.
We have a chalk. So the Magic. So that's actually important that Phoenix got the number 4 pick. We're chalk in the top 3. It is important the Magic got the number 4 pick. What happens now is the Magic. Or the Lakers, I believe that pick next year is also top 3 protected.
Yes.
Yeah. So the Lakers next year their pick is top 3 protected. If they fall outside the top 3, it goes to Philadelphia. If it's conveyed, then the Magic get an unprotected first-round pick in 2019. If it's not conveyed next year, the Magic would get 2 second-round picks. I believe 1 in 2018 and 1 in 2019, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe that is right.
So that is a big deal that the Lakers stayed in the top 3 and did not fall into the top and out of the top 3 because it does have implications for the Magic. So Philadelphia, LA, and Boston are going to be your top 3 picks. Boston, of course, getting that pick from the Brooklyn Nets. Obviously, Philadelphia, they kind of played this tank game perfectly now and, of course, fired their GM. What do you make of this top 3? Who needs the number 1 pick?
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Do they stick with Simmons, stay big, or do they take Brandon Ingram and finally get a guard?
Chris Dunn,
of course. Well, they need a point guard because, they traded Michael Carter-Williams, which was a good decision.
Yes, Michael Carter-Williams is not a good basketball man.
Yeah. I'm interested to see how Boston handles this 3rd pick. I don't think we've seen a team this good have a pick this high since Darko Milicic with the Pistons. So of course they're going to take Dragan Bender, and those comparisons are going to begin immediately. And they could actually use Dragan Bender, but they could actually use Brandon Ingram, and they could actually use Ben Simmons. That Celtics team with getting a top 3 pick here, really, really interesting to me. That could make them demonstrably better. Like that would be a really good environment for a rookie to go to.
Yeah, I think that Boston is an ideal situation for anybody, really. You know, that team is pretty good. I think that we see how good of a coach Brad Stevens is, and is going to continue to grow to be. And they have that core with Isaiah Thomas. You have Avery Bradley. They have Marcus Smart, who apparently decides to only hit threes in the Amway Center. I believe he hit 5.
Only there.
I believe he hit 5 of his 10 threes this center. That he hit more than 10 threes this season. I know.
Yeah. And he couldn't make them. And he apparently, I mean, I don't know what happened in his workout, but I assume he didn't make enough during his workouts with the Magic to have them actually take him when they took Gordon. So especially when the Magic needed a point guard. So we're down to the final 3. Our guy Brett Brown with the representing the Sixers, Mitch Kupchak representing the Lakers, and representing the Boston Celtics is one Isaiah Thomas, who wins a one-on-one game between prime Mitch Kupchak and Isaiah Thomas. Did Mitch Kupchak play? I think he did.
Maybe Mitch. I think
I think he did.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Obligatory. We want Russ Granick, Deputy Commissioner forever in our dreams and in our hearts.
Boston Celtics.
The Boston Celtics will pick 3rd, so we are chalk all the way. This is exactly what the lottery is here for, folks. The number 2 pick goes to the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Philadelphia 76ers have finally struck gold. They will take Jakob Poeltl, and he will be injured for all time.
We need a live look right now at the draft party that our friends at Liberty Ballers are throwing in Philadelphia. That is apparently very is supposedly very well attended.
Crowded.
I believe that I heard from one of my colleagues or one of my cohorts over there that they gave out about 1,800 parking passes for the event.
Wow.
And
good job, Liberty Ballers.
And they were expecting a lot more people. I know that the SB Nation head of the NBA division, Seth Pollock, was taking the train into Philadelphia for the day to hang out with the guys there. So that's really cool for the Sixers. I think that's going to be really good for them.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, there are 2 potentially franchise-changing players in this draft that we can see already in Ben Simmons and Brandon Ingram. I think Brandon Ingram probably makes the most sense for them. I'll probably start making an early mock draft right after we're done here, and I write my article. I obviously Sixers struck gold. They got what they wanted, and everyone is happy now. And of course, now the conspiracy theorists can begin because Dikembe Mutombo called this at about 3-4 o'clock today. That should about do it. Zach, do you have any closing thoughts here as we get set for Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals?
Yes. Our buddy Corey chimes in again with another question for us. Now that we know Dikembe Mutombo correctly announced the number 1 pick, how long do you think he's been part of the shadowy underworld of the NBA Illuminati?
You probably can't see me because I'm not talking, but I am wagging my finger.
No. We
don't talk about the NBA Illuminati.
We don't question Dikembe Mutombo either because he could probably sit on both of us at the same time and block both of our shots at the same time.
He can still. I mean, yeah.
So.
He probably could. His hand could probably crush both of our heads.
It could probably. It probably could. My head's pretty big, so good. I think the one thing is what does this mean for Sam Hinkie? Because
he put in all the work. And doesn't get the reward. I mean, the bottom line is, like, I know that these last 4 years have been really hard for Magic fans. This isn't something we're used to as a franchise, to be frank. I mean, we've tied the Magic tied the longest stretch they've been without an All-Star, or they broke that. They tied the longest stretch without making the playoffs this year. They're not used to being this low, and to build a sustainable winner, it takes a good coach, which the Magic didn't get off the bat. It takes some lottery luck to get your superstar players in place, which the Magic didn't get. But you're also running a business, and you got to start making progress and start moving forward. And the Sixers, I give them all the credit in the world for doing this thing with Hinkie, where I think the Sixers start trying to take steps forward. They've got their core in place. They've got all those assets.
And you've got to imagine that Dario Saric is going to come over this summer. That gives them another piece.
I mean, you take some short-term losses for long-term gains, and it's tough to do as a fan. You got to be really bought in and really believe in it. There have been times when I was like, the Magic should have done something like that. Like, I mean, Vucevic, you have him on a bargain deal. I like him a lot, but you're not going to win a championship with him, so why commit to him? It's this, it's tough. Building an NBA team is not easy. Only one team gets to win the championship, and as we're seeing, you can have the best player in the world in LeBron James, and it's still not enough. You can still mess up. You can still not have the right pieces in place, and that throws the whole thing out of whack. Rob Hennigan's had some tough luck. I think he's played it very, very safe. I'm sure he'll try and take some risks moving forward now. But you got to hit on some draft picks, which I think the Magic have. I think the Magic have drafted pretty well. This isn't like Minnesota or Sacramento where they've had absolute busts who can't play. And that's no offense to Minnesota and Sacramento, but they've drafted. They've had some bad drafts. I don't think that.
Why you got to talk about Johnny Flynn like that?
Oh, I was there when they drafted Johnny Flynn. Like, I was there. Most people don't know I worked for the Timberwolves that summer, and it was – they had to draft Ricky Rubio, but, yeah, everyone was scratching their heads on that one. But you can't mess those up when those opportunities come around, and I don't think the Magic have had that opportunity yet, to be frank. And so – part of you wants to say, let's keep playing the lottery and wait until that opportunity comes. And part of you's like, let's move forward with what we got and make an opportunity through a trade. And so, I think the first big move we'll see this summer from the Magic is a lot of trade rumors, especially around the draft. I think we'll see the Magic shop that pick aggressively, shop that pick with another player to bring in a quality vet to help attract a free agent. Show off maybe some Victor Oladipo highlights to try and entice someone to say, this guy's getting really good and Aaron Gordon's getting really good and you just need you. But we'll see what they do this summer. It's obviously a big one. I think you and I will both have some things going on. We'll chat, I'm sure, during the summer as well before summer league to get a bit of a flavor of where the Magic are going to go.
Summer league is going to be here before we even know it.
No, yeah. Well, the draft is going to sneak up on us in the next month. Zach, let's close it out. I know everyone wants to start watching the game pretty soon when it starts. Any last thoughts before we sign off here?
Yep, I expected it to be a chalky night. I think that it's awesome for Philadelphia to finally get that number one pick. For all the flack that they get for tanking, I think they're doing it the right way. I don't think that you can just go and pay guys just because they have one good season when they clearly show that they're not that good of a player. So, good for them. And I think that we expect this for the Magic. And if they keep the pick, cool. We'll get another rookie. If not, then they can go and maybe make a move for a veteran. So we'll have a lot to talk about. We should have a coaching announcement probably in the next week and a half, maybe 2 weeks here, we'd guess.
Yeah.
It's probably.
I'd probably bet next week. I would say before Memorial Day. I think it'll be done.
Yeah, I tend to agree. They need to get it done. They have to have somebody in place.
I think their list is very, very short. It's probably Vogel. It's definitely Griffin, and it's maybe Hornacek, and I think that's it.
I think James.
That's just guessing.
I think James Brago's ahead of Hornacek.
You think he's really there? It wouldn't surprise me, but nothing surprises me in the NBA. My closing thought here is, I think while everyone wants a lot of big moves for the Magic, I think that there's a very real possibility that the Magic try and remain patient, make some smaller moves. I'm actually not expecting a big max contract from the Magic this summer. I think they'll look to make smaller moves, bring in some veterans to help supplement this roster, maybe replace Evan Fournier, maybe re-sign him, depending on what the price is. I think do with where the Magic are at is actually to overspend on a guy and hamstring yourself and have yourself kind of caught with a roster you can't do anything with. That's how GMs get fired. GMs get fired taking unnecessary, uncalculated risks and hamstringing their roster. Say what you want about Tobias Harris, both good or bad. They signed that contract knowing they'd be able to move it, and they did very quickly. That's a good contract. Nikola Vucevic. Say what you want about him as a player and the ceiling he puts on your roster, but with that salary and his production, they'll be able to move him for something at some point, or just let the contract run out and then move on from there. Can't do is invest in the wrong guys. That's when mistakes are made. I think if they made one mistake, it's they haven't been risky enough. But I think Rob Hennigan is trying to make calculated risks, not reckless ones. And reckless risks are how GMs get fired. Yep. So that would be my closing thought before we enter the free agency. That should do it for the NBA Draft Lottery Spectacular. Thanks, everyone, for watching, no matter when you watched it. We really, really happy. I don't know, Zach, I don't know if you can see the viewer list on my screen, but we had you all for watching this. We'll try and do this a little bit more. We wanted to do this during the season and it kind of fell through the cracks. Really, really happy to have it. Make sure you visit Zach Oliver over at Orlando Pinstriped Post, orlandopinstripepost.com. Is it at OPP Magic Blog?
Yes, it is.
At OPP Magic Blog on Twitter, as well as at Zach Oliver NBA. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the editor of Orlando Magic Daily. You can visit us at orlandomagicdaily.com and follow me on Twitter at omagicdaily. For anything else, that'll do it. Thanks, everyone, for watching the NBA Draft Lottery with us. We will catch you the next time we broadcast.